Greetings, I am Erin Patten, metaphysical master in a millennial age, and it is my life's purpose to guide you and organizations along an enlightened path. So I invite you to sit comfortably and tune in as I welcome you to the Meta Business Millennial, where we get the real conversations you won't get in the boardroom so that we understand this is exactly the path we need to be on in order to grow, evolve, and thrive. Greetings, I am Erin Patten, also known as Master L, and welcome to the Meta Business Millennial podcast. We are live. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I am so grateful to have you all here today. Today, of course, is Meta Monday, as we all always hear on Meta Monday, and it's also Earth Day. And I'm just loving how this year I'm doing these lives on days that are just so special. Just a couple weeks ago, we had the total solar eclipse on the Monday. Now we're having Earth Day, and now we're also in this season of just really moving into spring and really honoring and being able to see all that Mother Earth has to offer us. And interestingly enough, I was really inspired to channel today's podcast based on being a light worker in leading organizations. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the term light worker, but I just wanted to start using metaphysical terms. I'm just putting myself all the way out there. I'm not trying to do trending things, trending topics all the time. I really want to speak to you and speak to those that are really on a path of new earth leadership, are really on a path of co-creating another level of existence for all of the folks, the mankind, human beings, all the beings living on this planet in this day and time. And it couldn't be a better day to talk about being a light worker and leading organization than on Earth Day. I mean, we did come to this earth. I mean, all of us, as much as we consciously may believe it, or for those that aren't aware, unconsciously, we chose to come to this planet. We chose to come to this planet and this time and to fulfill a divine task ordered by our soul between ourselves and God. And a lot of times, I don't know how deeply people think about this, yet this is part of my daily practice. This is part of my secondly, minutely, hourly practice, is coming back and reminding myself that I chose to be here. I am choosing to be here, and I choose to be here right now. And when we are coming into that consciousness and that present awareness of knowing, that's really when we start to unlock what I like to call the light work to be able to lead organizations. And going back to what I was sharing about the Earth Day and why it's even relevant to today's conversation is because of the very special connection we have to the Earth. And I'm just going to repeat it for those of you that may already know, but we do come from earth, from ash to ashes to dust, that this is a truth. We are comprised of all the elements that exist in this reality, in this earth realm. And we must be able to understand that everything related to earth is connected back to us. Everything in the cosmos also connects back to us. That's our spirit body, and earth is our physical body. And so as we suffer, earth suffers. As earth suffer, we suffer. As we thrive, earth thrives. As earth thrives, we thrive. And as we come into more of an awareness and an understanding of this truth, then we start to move differently. And we start to move differently because we feel the connectivity that we have to the things that are around us. And, it could be in a sense where it's more euphoric and you're lying in the grass and all those things, or it could be something as simple as just observing, nature, observing mountains, observing the sky, observing the things and seeing and feeling that connectivity of, wow, like I'm part of something great. And I speak to this because having this knowingness and embodying this knowingness really allows the light work to happen and come to you more easily, if I could say that. And the light work essentially is moving in the proper principles of the universe. And those principles include things like truth, justice, love, compassion, righteousness, authenticity, um, acceptance, willingness, courage. All of these higher emotions and higher traits, if you will, are part of the light work. And that's what I mean when I say light work. Like being a light worker is carrying that torch of righteousness, carrying that torch of truth, and carrying that torch of justiceness in your being wherever you go. Now, I'm not saying we have to go out here and be like Malcolm X and stand on podiums and pedestals in the neighborhood and preach and teach. That's not what I'm calling everyone to do. That's honestly not what brings everyone joy. That brought him joy, of course. That was definitely necessary in the 60s in that day and time where we didn't have things like social media, or platforms or big companies. And now we have LinkedIn, now we have Facebook, now we have so many places where we can share ourselves. And then we have these organizations where we can show up every day and be ourselves in front of lots of other people. And when we are called to do this light work, when we show up in this truth, then other people around us are inspired by us. Other people around us also are moved by us, or are taught by us, and can also move in this type of existence and being. And the beautiful part about having everyone else around us doing this is it makes the work so much more enjoyable. It makes being in relationships so much more enjoyable. It makes being around your family so much more enjoyable. When you show up and you bring good vibes and you bring good energy and you bring your true self, then everyone else feels comfortable in doing the same. And that's what it takes as a leader. And I want to speak from my own personal experience because I think stories are the best way to kind of convey these messages. As I'm building my own company, I've been now working on the meta business world, my current company, formerly called Erin Patten and Associates, since November of 2020. I launched my company on my birthday, November 2020. And it was, of course, the height of the pandemic. Like, why would you launch a new company at this time? Yet it was certainly what the collective needs. And here I am about 3.5 years later, and I'm still feeling like, I'm in the trenches. And I'm really, and I have a team. I have now a team of few people that work with me, and it's so important, no matter how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, to show up for my team in truth. So if I'm having a shitty day, then I'm showing up talking about the shit that's going on in my life and how I'm working through it. If I'm having an amazing day, an awesome day, I'm showing up with the announcement, with the giddies, with the tears, with the laughter, so they can see all that I am. And I can't tell you how rare this was for me, particularly when I was working in corporate America, or when I was working anywhere, for anyone to show up in truth to me, with me. There was always a mask, there was always a professional persona, there was always a different way of even talking and being and walking and dressing that really didn't reflect who the people were that I worked with. And it was obvious because there was no connection. I felt zero to no connection with the people in the office spaces that I worked in, because no one felt comfortable or safe enough to show up in their truth, even leadership. And this is a very difficult place for me particularly to thrive in, when I'm not feeling safe because no one else around me feels safe to be themselves. So I am insecure. I am uncomfortable. I am then unhappy because of the inability to be and live and speak in my truth, because it's not modeled by leadership. And it made my job suck. It made the experience suck. I was really unhappy. And when you're unhappy, you're unable to perform at your best. I doubted my performance. I doubted the work that I put out. I doubted the projects that were given to me. It was really a hard, tough time because of the culture of masking, the culture of hiding, the culture of competition, the culture of cutthroatness, of working so hard so I can outperform the other guy instead of trying to figure out how we can do all this shit better, way better together. Yet that was not modeled by leadership. So when that behavior is not modeled, then it's hard for other people to understand how it works and how to do it. So that's why it's important as a leader of your organization to lead with light, to lead with truth, to lead with righteousness, with justice, with openness, with vulnerability, with compassion and love, because then you model that for the people around you. And when the people around you can live and breathe and exist in this kind of space, then they also can start to exercise their greatness and operate at their highest potential. And this essentially is the work. And I'm going to come back to this every week because this is something that we all have to be reminded of. We've been programmed for 20, 30, 40, 50 years to come to work and do tasks, come to work and do activities as fast as we can, as correct as we can. Yet, how does that take you to billions and trillions of dollars? There's no innovation there. We are essentially robots, task rabbits. There actually are there's an app out there called Task Rabbit. There really is. There aren't opportunities really for thought and creativity to thrive because we're so busy putting out fires. We're so busy working and responding and arguing in emails. And this is the current state of the work culture. This is the current state of the dating culture. This is the current state of the family culture. There is not enough love and compassion going around. Let's just put it that way. And I was watching another podcast yesterday where they were actually talking about self compassion, particularly for leaders, for motivational speakers, actually. And this point is so powerful that it literally brought the one of the podcasters to tears, talking about his own experience on being so hard on himself. He is the leader of a multi-million dollar organization, global. And he says, and he's 40 and and honestly like in tears about how hard he is to himself. And I've shared this about my own being and my own experience and how years ago I was writing how I hate myself in journals. When we are hard on ourselves, then that also is reflected outwardly. So when we talk about the light work that we need to lead and model for other people, it first starts with how we treat ourselves. And I want to speak to this. I mean, it is my show, so I can just go wherever I want to go with it. But really, what's coming up for me is like a motherly teaching. Because now that I'm a mother to a 4-year-old, I see how sensitive and fragile he is to my scolding, if you will, or my discipline, or me telling him no. And it reminds me of how maybe I talk to myself or how I was talked to by my own mother. And there was always a harshness. Even thinking back to my coaches growing up in sports, I played violin since I was 4. Like I did all these things, and there was always a strictness and a harshness with the teaching. I went to Catholic school, Montessori school. We used to get beat, spanked. There was always a punishment to correction. There was always a punishment or a harshness to doing things right the right way. Even the way I say it the right way. Like, what is that about? Why do we have to be so hard to ourselves or to others to get things the right way, to get things correct? What is the right way? Maybe there is a different way, but we're so focused on our way. And that's what I'm learning a lot as a mother with my child. I'd be so quick to tell his ass, da, 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 but then he'd be quick to be like, well, what about da, 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 da? And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm learning something from a 4-year-old because of my willingness to just be a slightly open in my correction, a slightly softer in my correction. And this is, and I feel it this in my body and my being, because this is the same level of compassion that we must show ourselves as light workers, as bearers of truth, as enlightened beings, as divine beings in this human, in this man woman body. We must understand the importance of speaking kindly to ourselves. And what does that look like? When we make mistakes, sit with them, feel comfortable with them, and learn the lesson from them. Because, boy, have I made some mistakes. Have I learned some lessons? And I used to beat myself up over it, crying at night, not being able to sleep because I didn't know something that I know now. And our lessons can be harsh because they can be costly. They can cost lots of money, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. For bigger organizations, millions, hundreds of millions. There are orders of magnitude to some of these and costs associated and consequences associated with these lessons. Yet at the end of the day, this is part of the light workers. This is part of the leader's journey, the hero's journey. Like Joseph Campbell. Everyone always talks about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey in the cave and going into the cave and coming out of the cave and seeing the light, the Plato's cave. Everyone talks about this. But what happens when you actually experience it? When you go through it, it's one thing to talk about it theoretically, but when you experience it, what do you do? How do you treat yourself? How do you speak to yourself? How do you love on yourself? And this is the same behavior that you mimic to the people in your organization. This is the same behavior that you mimic to the people in your family, in your relationships, in your friendships. That same grace, that same compassion. And they can then show you if they're deserving of it or not, because it will happen very quickly. And if they're not deserving, then that's an easy let it go. And so, getting back to, I want to talk about the earth as it relates to this, because it is Earth Day and it's meaningful because I'm channeling on this day. And we also must consider the energy that we carry with the earth and connecting back to the earth. I'm so grateful for this fitness journey that I'm on. I know a lot of you that are following me probably see my workout videos that I post in the gym. But in addition to me going to the gym a few times a week with my trainer, I'm also getting out a lot more in nature, going on walks with my son, going on walks by myself. Even just a couple weeks ago when I was in Portland, I got to hike this beautiful waterfall and then walk through this beautiful Japanese garden. So I'm really getting out into nature, and particularly that walk with that waterfall made me feel so diminutive, like so tiny. And I met someone at the top of the waterfall on the overlook, and we were just chatting. He was visiting from another country, and I was asking him. He was asking me how did it feel? How did I feel to be at the top of that waterfall? And I was so grateful for that inquiry because I honestly hadn't stopped to feel into my being and what it felt like to hike. I hiked for a while because I went the wrong way and got caught in the rain and all kind of stuff. And I ended up, of course, at the top of the waterfall because I took pictures of it and videos and stuff. Yet through that journey, if you will, I really felt held. I felt like like a child of the earth. Like I felt like mama's baby, like Mother Earth, and I was her baby. Nurtured, loved, like the mist of the water, the smell of the crisp air, the softness of the earth that I was walking on, even the hardness, like the contrast, it just felt nurturing. And this is actually the energy that we should be moving with as light workers on this planet. But this is not honestly most of our realities. Oftentimes, we're not feeling nurtured, we're not feeling safe, we're not feeling held, so we act accordingly. We exist in a fight or flight state. We're constantly reacting versus responding. So if you feel like this is you, and you're reacting a lot more than you're responding, then I highly encourage you to connect back to earth and make it an intentional practice. Even something as simple as going in your backyard and taking off your shoes, going to the park, walking barefoot. Literally, we are electromagnetic beings. So being around all this digital equipment and being in our offices and being in these very sterile spaces, it gives us kind of like static, if you will, like your dryer sheet and your clothes in the dryer. Like sometimes your frequency is just off. And what's the first thing in electricity? You have to get grounded. You have to have a grounding source in order for the electricity to run properly. And where does that grounding usually come from? It comes from the earth. So when you kind of compare the human biocomputer or human technology to electric technology, it works the same. We too must be grounded and doing so on a daily basis. In order for the light to shine brightly, it has to have a grounded source, a grounded, powerful source. Going back to the light worker, as a light worker, we must be firmly rooted. And that's what the root chakra represents. The earth chakra, when you go even further than the root chakra. And for those of you who are not as familiar with the chakra system, we have 7 main chakras, which are just essentially energy centers in our etheric body that control our magnetic system, if you will, our spirit, our soul. And that then connects to our physical body. So when we're feeling sometimes pain in different parts of our body, we can know when what part of our energy centers are misaligned. And grounding, being rooted is always the first chakra, the first energy that we should look towards when we're feeling off. Getting grounded, just going outside, getting some fresh air, walking in the earth, walking in the grass, celebrating the earth, celebrating what earth has to offer us and has done for us. We come from earth. Again, like I said, from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We all know the scripture. We come from earth. So it's now feeling a little bit time to start wrapping up. And I hope that this deeply resonates with you out there that are listening, particularly those that are wanting to do work that really is inspired by creating a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of existence for mankind in this day and time. For those of you that are really, really aligned with being your best self, showing up with your best energy, showing up with the most you have to offer yourself in the world, this is the work that you have to do. The self-compassion, as I spoke to, the kindness to yourself, the soft words to yourself, the allowing for mistakes, the allowing for lessons, the groundedness, remembering that today's Earth Day. I'm definitely going to go for a walk today and honor Earth in the most beautiful way that I can. And that's to go for my walk in the parks with the trees, hug some trees. You don't have to even go that far. However, understanding that your groundedness and connecting to nature is essential to your health and your well being, particularly as a light worker, getting grounded, taking that time to ground yourself, sit on the floor, sit on the ground, walk barefoot outside. And then also understanding and remembering the impact that you have on others. We talked about this way at the start of today's podcast. As a light worker, as a carrier of truth, of justice, of righteousness, of love, of compassion, of all these higher order energies and higher order emotions, you literally shift the energetic frequency of those around you for the good and for the bad. Like I said, a lot of times this starts to support the people around you, and sometimes it polarizes you from people. And either way is okay because it's getting you closer to your alignment with where you're supposed to be with God, with Source, with your divine energy. with your highest self. And so, really, by carrying that light, standing in your truth, standing in your authenticity, and working with that in your office, in your organization, for your company, you become the light worker leading your organization to a higher vision, leading your organization to a higher purpose. And this is essentially the work that we do with the meta business world. We do our meta business, our VIP days, our activations, where I come in, I do speaking, I do motivation, inspiring, really start to teach people what it means to be an energy worker, what it means to be a light worker, what it means to work with energy and really be aware of your energy. And then we dive really deeply into meta strategy, which is when we get into the vision and the values of the organization, because the values come from you as the leader. What do you stand for? What don't you stand for? What are your guiding principles? What motivates you and inspires you to wake up every day? It can't be the money all the time. So, what are some of these deeper values that you can guide others with? Because essentially, that's what people are looking towards. And then, of course, you have the opportunity to work one on one with me in meta coaching. And that's something that I'm really excited about. I've already started doing some ads that some of you may have seen around my meta coaching program and inviting leaders just like you to join me in really expanding our consciousness, working together to grow our energy and tap into that ineffable, infinite source potential that you have to be a new earth leader in this day and time. So, with that, I want to go ahead and wrap up today's episode of the Meta Business Millennial Podcast. If you haven't already, I invite you to like this video, share it with a friend, subscribe to our channels. Again, we're live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. And it's just been such an honor to share this time and space with all of you. I was looking to see if any of you had any comments or any reactions today. And it seems like people were just taking it all in, which is super dope. And if you have questions, feel free to hit me up, DM me at I am Erin Patten, or you can go to my website, www.erinpatten.com, to find out more resources, find ways to work with me. You can take the Meta Business Avatar quiz. And of course, you can follow the Meta Business Millennial podcast on Instagram. And until next week, I send you all so much light, so much love, so much joy this week for Earth Day, celebrating Earth today and this week. And get outside. All right, you all. Peace. Did you really love this episode of the Meta Business Millennial Podcast? Well, I am honored, and I appreciate you subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends, because your feedback allows us to co-create more enlightened conversations. And if you're interested in growing your soul now, head over to my website, erinpatten.com, to find all the show notes, links, and free resources to get your energy activated today. In the meantime, stay bright, my friends. Much love and light. Peace.